Hi, everybody. Welcome. Leslie Bytel here, business strategist and coach. And happy Thursday, everybody. Here we are again. And I'm actually really looking forward to today's session. Today is we're going to talk to Jadeda Hooks, and really looking forward to it because today's topic is all about how to hire a team. All right, how to hire a team of VAs, really before your practice gets too busy. So, little hint. I think one of the takeaways that you're going to get from today is how to go about hiring. Like, what are the specific steps that you can take that you can literally take now in preparation to hire your team, and why you need to do it before you think you're ready. Right, that's going to be a topic as well. So I want to say hello to Jadina. Welcome.
Thank,
Yeah, so happy to have you. Welcome.
thank you. So I'm Jadeda, and I am originally from Illinois, right outside Chicago. And
Oh, Julian, welcome.
yeah, so I'm presently in the metropolitan area of Atlanta. And so I have I started my private practice a little over a year ago. I was working full time, 9 to 5, for about 10 years in the dialysis setting before I decided to open up my private practice. So as of January of this year, I have been full time in private practice.
Amazing. So you're almost at that 12-month mark. So a
Yes.
little bit of background. So I met Jadida. She was one of my participants in the Six Figure Biz Academy 2021, and that's how her and I connected. So I think you're going to really love her story, and I think you'll find it very inspiring. And guys, the one thing I want to mention is this whole topic of hiring a team. Oh my gosh, like this is life changing, truly, truly life changing. I mean, there's so many benefits, but really, one of the main things that I want to emphasize up front is that it frees up your time, doing all like there are tasks that, yeah, you could do it, like for sure, right? You could do it, but that doesn't mean you should be doing these tasks. Hiring out a team is going to allow you to free up time so that you can focus on revenue generating activities. And I think that's really one of the main takeaways. So, with that little background, let's jump in. So, Jadida, tell us a little bit about, I guess, your journey. I know you started your practice a year ago, January. What led you to decide to even open your practice?
So I wanted more freedom. I really loved working in dialysis. I loved the patient population, but I was looking more for work-life balance, and it was my time to do that. My husband has always been his own entrepreneur, had his own business, and so it was my turn. And I just wanted just more work-life balance. That was my main goal.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And tell us again, where were you employed prior to going full time?
So prior to working for myself full time, I worked in dialysis for Fresenius Kidney Care.
Okay. Yep. So full-time job, 4 kids, husband, a
Very
husband with
busy.
a very full business as well as an entrepreneur,
Yes.
right? Okay. So you wanted that sense of freedom. I'm guessing you wanted more time, to spend with your family, right? All those things that we as entrepreneurs really crave in our lives, that freedom, flexibility to make your own schedule, all that good stuff, right? So in your case, um, let's kind of flash forward and talk about, what ended up happening. right? So you started your practice in January, and you are focused on you're specializing in renal, right?
That's
Renal
correct.
nutrition.
Renal nutrition, that's correct.
Your goal. So let me ask you this: are you specializing in helping prevent dialysis, or are you working with patients, after they start dialysis, or maybe a combination of both?
So, with my private practice, my goal is to prevent patients from needing dialysis.
Yeah.
So, we are working together to do as much as we possibly can to delay that disease process. So, of course, many times diabetes and high blood pressure are the key reasons why a person will have problems with their kidneys. And so many of my patients have kidney disease, but then diabetes and managing that high blood pressure is definitely part of that journey as well. So delaying kidney disease is, my biggest goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. So you started your practice January, and then what happened?
So I thought that I would be able to just kind of go at my own pace with private practice. I was going to be this one man show. And shortly after I started full time private practice in February, so not even a full month, my husband had a stroke.
Mm.
And the stroke was related to a giant brain aneurysm.
Mm.
And he would require brain surgery. And so, March, we decided that we would go ahead and take that risk and have surgery. It was scheduled for May. And so, from February, about the middle of February to May, there was a lot of pressure because not only did he have his own business to manage, and I had to take on 90% of it. Um, I was always kind of in the background doing administrative things for him. But in a very short period of time, I had to learn everything about his business.
So you not
So,
only had your business, you
yeah,
had his business.
yeah,
Oh my goodness. Plus 4 kids. We don't
plus
want to forget the 4 kids, right?
that's
Right.
right.
You're in the middle of like crazy, crazy town, right? With you had kids that were home now, essentially.
Yes, virtual.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden you were thrown into this teacher role as well. So yeah, a lot to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, you were thrown in, like, I would imagine, and I do remember that. It was, I remember you sharing in the Six Figure Biz Academy just like how stressful, how crazy things were at that time. You had to manage your husband's business. Plus, I remember very well when you shared that you had like 12 physician referrals sitting on your desk.
Yeah.
And you did not, you were like, oh my gosh, like I seriously do not have time. What do I do? So tell us about that whole process.
Yes. So I knew I needed help. I knew I was in trouble. I knew no matter what, I still wanted to continue with my nutrition practice because that is my passion.
Yeah.
And not only that, there were so many patients in my area where I live that really needed nutrition advice. They needed help. They were scared. Having kidney disease can be very scary. And so I knew I needed to hire some assistants. And so my journey from hiring assistants, I posted an ad on Facebook. I just said, "Hey, anyone know of anyone that could do some administrative um, tasks for me?" And I had about 6 or 7 people uh, private message me and inquire about what I needed.
Okay.
So I was really excited about that.
Okay, so interesting. I didn't realize that's how it all began in terms of
Mhm.
finding your team. Okay, So you posted an ad, you had, and was this mainly to your friends on Facebook?
That is correct. It was just my friends on Facebook.
Okay. And so you got some responses, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then what did you do? Like, I really want to kind of break this into specific steps
Okay.
so that our audience, kind of gets a sense of how they can approach this in a stepwise fashion, because it really can be quite overwhelming. Especially when you've got, like, in your case, you had so much chaos going on all at one time.
Mhm.
I'm just imagining how, like, I'm just picturing the thought of hiring a team in this moment. Like, many of us would probably think, oh my God, like, I don't have time to hire a team. It might be easier just to do it all myself, right? I'm guessing that many of us would have those thoughts, but you thankfully were smarter than that, right? And you,
Yes.
you're like, oh no, I see the writing on the wall here. So you posted on Facebook, you got a few responses, and then
Yes.
what did you do next?
So I created a task list, things that I absolutely, hands down, could not do. So, for an example, just answering the phone. If I am, in a session with a patient, I cannot answer the phone. So I created a task list of important things that I knew I could delegate, someone else could do. And I created an application online, and I started the phone interview process. So, believe it or not, all of the candidates that responded to the ad did not have any experience in being a virtual assistant. Um, Most of them had some tech skills, could work in the operating systems and that kind of thing. So, really, they were just lay friends. And so I started the interview process. In my mind, I thought I was going to hire only one person,
Yeah.
that I felt would be ideal. And so one of my friends that reached out, I told her what I needed. She goes, "Sure, I can help you out." And I said, "You got the job." And so, um, interestingly, um, as I was driving, maybe a couple of days later, I got another phone call from a really close friend of mine who was inquiring about the position for her daughter,
Mm.
who was graduating high school. And I said, "Well, sure. Tell me some things that your daughter can do." And then I explained to her all the things that I needed. And she says, "Well, I can help you with that." She says, "Well, actually, we both can help." And so I was a little reluctant because here I was thinking I only need one person.
Yeah.
And so I was feeling kind of uneasy because essentially I've offered the job to two people. And so I was a little nervous because I wasn't sure if I could even afford that.
Yeah. 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 I'd love to hear about that. So, how did you, yeah. Okay. Veronica has a question. Where did you post the position listing?
Hmm. So,
So,
yep. So I posted the position just on my personal Facebook page, and in my personal Facebook page just has my friends. It's not even open to the public. So.
okay. So
Mhm.
interesting. Guys, I just posted a question. I'd love to know how many of you, or what your status is. Do you have a VA? Do you have a team? Are you thinking about hiring a team or a singular VA in the new year? Let us know where you're at, And that way we can really personalize our session today. Okay, so all of a sudden you went from, I'm going to do it all myself,
Mhm. Yep.
to, OMG, now I've just hired 3 people, essentially,
Yes.
right?
That is exactly what happened.
And
Yeah.
we're thinking, oh boy, what have I done? How did you, what were like mentally, how did you know that you could afford it? I guess, or did you? Like, how did you reconcile that in your mind?
I At the time I was not even sure. I was still again uneasy whether or not I can even afford it, whether or not it would even work out.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of, in a sense, flying by the seat of my pants. We were
Yeah.
just kind of winging it. And at that point, at that moment, because I had so much that needed to be done, I felt, well, even if I have 3 people for 3 months, and after 3 months, we I sit and do an assessment on where I'm at.
hmm
If I have to let 1 or 2 go, then
So be
then
it.
so be it.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And
Hmm.
actually, that does remind me of, I think, an important point, and that is, personally, I would recommend that you do have a trial period,
Yeah.
an agreement that, we're going to, it's a trial, either a 30 or 90-day trial, 30, 60, or 90. Yeah. So that's actually a really, really smart idea.
Yes.
You knew that you were in a bind, and
Yeah.
that, you didn't have a crystal ball. You didn't know what the future was going to hold for you. And so I think that's a really smart way to look at it. Like, okay, I'll see how this works out, and I can decide to make some changes even after a few months.
Right.
So, all right, so you have all of a sudden 3 VAs. So you made a list
Hmm.
of tasks that you knew that either A, you couldn't do, or B, you shouldn't be doing, right?
Right.
And
Right.
one of those tasks was answering the phone, which is, yeah, absolutely like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Out of all the things you could be doing, that is definitely one to delegate, like right away, right out of the gate.
Right.
And
Yeah.
most people would happily hand that over because, yeah, most of us are like, oh, I don't want to do that. So answering the phone, returning calls, what else was on those lists?
Scheduling appointments, going through the 12 or 15 referrals that I had received to get them scheduled. I do use my electronic health record does provide a lot of automations. I do use Practice Better, which is a wonderful program.
Mhm.
However, many of my patients are older, and many of my patients are not comfortable with using things, really using technology.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I can see that.
so that group would be left out. And so I was not able to use the automated system with that group. And so my assistants will reach out to those patients and give them a phone call and get them scheduled, and get them an appointment. And I've also I'm an insurance based. Well, actually, I'm a mix. I accept cash paying patients, but I also accept insurance.
Mm.
And I have taught my assistants on how to file insurance claims.
Oh, good. Okay, so the billing,
Yes,
you've delegated that, which is awesome. So phone calls, scheduling, billing.
yes, those are, and insurance verification as well. I've taught them how to do that. I know many practices don't do insurance verifications. They really will rely on that patient or that client to do it. And no, but I've chosen at this point in my practice that we'll do it in behalf of the patient. And so it's definitely worth it.
Yeah,
Because
especially for your type of practice, specialized
yes.
in renal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, how did you handle this pile of physician referrals? I
Wow.
know that was like, oh my gosh, so stressful. Like, what do I do with them? You know, you didn't
Yes.
want to. You were super busy.
Mm-hmm.
You had so much going on. How did you delegate dealing with those to your VAs? Tell me that process.
Yes. So customer service is really, really, really important.
Yeah.
And so, one good thing about the pile of referrals is that the patients knew that they would be receiving a phone call from me at some point.
Right.
Um, and so I did end up delegating. We just kind of split them up, and I said, "You all, you take this one, this pile. You take this pile. You take that pile." And I created a script for when the virtual assistants are calling the patients, and I also made sure that those patients that were sitting for a while, it was about 3 weeks actually, to be exact, um, that they were very apologetic in the fact that a kidney nutrition specialist was just reaching out to them. And so it all worked out. All of the patients were able to be seen, and you know that was it. So I delegated it all out. I didn't make one phone call.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hmm.
So good. Okay. Okay. Looking at the comments. All right. So welcome, Veronica. So Veronica says, it's just me. I just opened a few weeks ago. Congratulations. That's awesome news. Okay. So no VA team yet. Melanie is, yeah, so Melanie does not have a VA yet either, but is contemplating one to help her, it sounds like, with her the financial aspects of the business, which is great. And then Tammy, welcome Tammy. Tammy has had 2 different VAs in the past, but no longer. Um, and she found both of them, it looks like, from Upwork, which is a very interesting option, actually. Okay. All right. Fantastic. So we've got quite a mix. All right. So Jadeda, so you hired 3 people.
Hmm.
You delegated. You
Hmm.
trained. Can you tell us a little bit about that training process? Because I have a hunch that that is something that is really kind of overwhelming to our audience. Just have a feeling. Let me know if that's true, guys. How do you feel about the training process? Give me a quick comment back. And in the meantime, Jadida, how did you go about that?
So again, neither one of my assistants had experience, and particularly with healthcare practice. And, I'm a firm believer that most things are teachable or
Yeah.
trainable. And the good thing about training someone who does not have experience is that you can train them the way that you
Yeah.
need them to be. And so that is definitely a great benefit.
Mhm.
And so the process of training involved basically Google Meet. I'd schedule meetings online, and for each task, again, I've made so many different scripts, PowerPoint presentations, and I would also record our meetings so that if there were things that I needed them to do, they could always go back and rewatch that recording and get those the details. As I trained, I, of course, documented anything that we created. We have in folders. We use Google Drive, and we share different pieces of information with each other. I set everyone up with a email address for the business, so we're able to communicate very well with that as well. I also use a like a task list by Canavan so that we can stay focused on things that need to be done. And it's all shareable. And so my advice is just as you are training, just make sure that you are documenting and saving it somewhere so that you don't have to recreate the wheel if you plan on having to hire
Yeah.
someone else to your team, or if whatever reason the current assistant doesn't work out for you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Always, always recommend that. That's huge. So yeah, I mean, on my team, we create standard operating procedures. So like for every task, even what you would think is the most mundane, easiest tasks, we still have an SOP, right?
Yes.
That has made a huge difference. So, I mean, it's literally a step by step process for each and every task, right? And because you never know, right? People move around, and things happen, and you just don't want to be. Let me just say, I can speak from experience here. What was it? It was actually a year ago, where before I had all these SOPs in order, and I actually did have a change on my team. And I will just share with you all, it was incredibly stressful. It was October of last year. It was incredibly stressful. I didn't have things in place. I knew I needed to, and I was starting to do the SOPs, but bam, all of a sudden it was like right there. And we really had to scramble to get those elements in place. So, really, my recommendation would be to just start the process, start creating your processes. What you actually can do is every time you do a task, and remember, even a super simple task, you can video your screen doing the task. Like we use Loom, and that was super helpful. Then you've got like a library of little videos that you've created that can really, really help you for the future. So I would start that sooner rather than later, and just kind of start to lay the groundwork. So
Right.
that would be my recommendation. So kind of looking back then, Jadida, what would you've done anything differently?
Well, I would say my mindset with all of this has changed. Again, when I went into private practice full time, I having an assistant was not even on the table,
Mhm.
not anything that I was even thinking about. I thought that I could do it all on my own. Um,
Can,
and
right? Right?
you can, but when we think about, you know, time, efficiency,
Yeah.
and again, one of my big reasons to go into private practice was to have more of a work life, family life balance. And I would not be able to achieve that doing all of that on my own. And so, if I were to do anything different, it would be instead of, you know, all of a sudden being thrown into this situation where I
Yeah.
had to have help,
Yeah.
I would have been thinking about this from day one. What are some things that I can delegate out that's not necessarily money generating,
Yeah.
and start there, because it's just me in regards to a registered dietitian. It's just me, and so my assistants can't do my job. Of
Right.
course, the sessions is what's going to generate the revenue, but they're able to do everything else. So just the thought process or the mindset to start thinking about delegating responsibilities out in the beginning before things get kind of out of control.
Yeah. So start the process before you think you're ready is
Right.
what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yes.
And I would really tend to agree with that.
Mhm.
So, okay, yeah, guys, let's get to your questions. So, Nadia, welcome. How many hours per week did you use your assistants?
Okay, so uh, let's see. I probably pay about 30 hours every 2 weeks. I use ADP as my payroll system, and it's on average about 30 hours for 3 assistants biweekly.
Okay. So, yeah, so a nice chunk of time,
Mhm.
but not crazy by
Nope.
any stretch, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
um, the thing that I personally can share about this process, in addition to what, Jadeda talked about in terms of starting before you're ready, I would just say that you're probably going to be pleasantly surprised once you free up like these tasks that are taking up your brain space, right? Like you're you can really focus on driving the business once
Right.
that happens. I really can't emphasize that enough. I really, really hope that you all can see how it's a really super smart business decision to free up your time so that you can focus on revenue generating activities, right? So, like, if you are finding yourself kind of bogged down with the behind the scenes tasks, that's a sign, guys. That really is a sign that, and you can start small. You don't have to go out and find, 40 hours per week. You really, really don't. Um, I would just kind of like, I would dip my toe in and maybe look for someone that can do 5 hours a week, right?
Mhm.
Even 5 hours a week, just so that you can kind of get a taste of what's possible. You
Mhm.
start making more money, I can virtually guarantee your revenue is going to go up, right?
Mhm.
Um, so anyway, super. It's absolutely transformational. Like I like to share. There's two things that I did when I had my nutrition practice that made all the difference. One was, and I know this isn't like mind blowing now in this day and age, but when I switched to an online calendar, like that was huge.
Mhm.
Okay. I used to be really kind of controlling of my calendar, like, oh my gosh. And then when I finally let that go, it really was a huge shift. But the second thing I did that was huge was I got my first VA before I knew I was ready.
Mhm.
Okay. So, guys, I really, come to you with this message. Much of it is based on my own personal experience as well as what I've seen with my clients. So, and guys, there are Facebook groups. Like if you go on Facebook, you can do a search. There are many, many groups where virtual assistants kind of congregate,
Mhm.
right?
That's
Um,
true.
yeah, I've found a handful, and
Mhm.
so that's another way to find a VA. And there's lots of options there. So my recommendation would be to look for someone that doesn't, I mean, you just want to be cognizant of their minimum because some of them will say, minimum 10 hours a week. So, when I first started out, I tried to avoid that because I really didn't know how much time I would need. So that would be my recommendation. Yeah, can you share anything in terms of the hourly rates?
Yes, so I started them at $16 per hour, and everyone was happy with that. And as we are approaching a year, that's something that we'll definitely reevaluate in regards to pay increase and
Mhm.
even more tasks that I can delegate out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's super, I mean, for the most part, doable,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially when you think about the idea. Guys, this is the key, is it frees up those hours for you to generate more revenue, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you think about like it's kind of a funny way to think about it, but one, well, I guess one way to kind of justify the cost in your own mind would be, okay, so think about the your hourly rate, right? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
let's just say hypothetically, I'm just pulling this number out of thin air, but let's just say your hourly rate is, I don't know, 150 bucks an hour, just hypothetically. So then the question becomes, would you pay someone $150 an hour to return phone calls,
Right.
right? Probably not. But
Mm-hmm.
that is your hourly rate, and that is the amount you're spending currently, right? It doesn't make sense. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need to spend 150 an hour for a task such as that. It makes so much more sense to spend 16 bucks an hour, right?
Right.
So that is really how. Oh, hey, Karen. Karen
Hey,
is
classmates.
yeah, classmates from the Six Figure Kids Academy. Welcome, Karen. And Karen got a kick out of your. I saw your post, your
Oh,
dad's comments. That was hilarious. I love. I can tell I love your dad. Okay, Amy, welcome, Amy. So, all right, great question. Are these employees or is it like a contract?
they are employees.
Ah,
They
okay.
are
That's
employees.
super
So
interesting.
yeah. So I again I created a application, um, job responsibility list. I have a couple of other forms regarding HIPAA, things like that. And they are paid as an employee, W 2.
Okay, fascinating. Yeah.
Hmm.
What made you decide to go that route?
It's it's what I'm familiar with, with my husband having his business, he had employees. And so that's what I was familiar with.
Yeah.
And so that's what I stuck with.
Okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
Super interesting. Yeah. So probably I would probably, I mean, I my people are not actual employees, so I think it just really depends. I would probably run that by an attorney just to get their recommendation, because there are some different, laws and regulations in each state. So probably you'd want to run that by an attorney. But
Hmm.
certainly in the beginning, um, you know, you could go either way, right? Like, it's
Hmm.
interesting. She's more familiar with the employee route. I myself am not, right? So I've always just gone with the contract route. So
Hmm.
I think whatever works for you in that
Hmm.
regard. Okay, so if looking back, the one thing that you would do differently than Jadida, it sounds like you would get into this mindset much earlier, right?
Hmm.
And
That's
you would, instead of like kind of, well, you didn't. It's not like you waited a super long time. It was like,
that's true.
but maybe you would have started, right when you started your practice. You
Hmm.
would have maybe started to create some SOPs, some processes, and your mindset would have been such that you instead of just kind of being thrown into the fire, you would have had a plan. Of course, we can't control some of these external variables that happened, but nonetheless, the good news for you is that you were able to, even in the midst of all that chaos and
Hmm.
stress and fear, all of these things that were happening for you all at one time with your husband, and just, oh my gosh, you can't imagine.
Yes.
You were able to see clearly and really respond and react in a positive way.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It definitely was a trying time, and he's still, in recovery
Yeah.
mode, doing much, much better.
Call us, give us
Um,
an update. How
yes,
is he?
yeah, he's, let's see, May, I mentioned he had surgery on his brain, and then a month later in June, he had another stroke. And
Oh,
so that really set him back. He was hospitalized and in rehab for about a month,
mhm.
and he had to learn to walk again. So he really got debilitated, but he's doing so much better now. Still doing therapies. He still have a quite a bit of recovery to do, but he's definitely functional. He can drive a car.
Oh,
So
good. Good stuff.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that is so good. I'm really glad to hear it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So any parting words of wisdom as we begin to wrap up our conversation for today?
I would just say, keep your goals clearly in mind. Always try to figure out what steps you need to put in place so that you can achieve those goals. Don't give up. You have to be really resilient and very persistent as well. But just keep those goals in mind and just know where you want to be, and things will work out. Things will work out.
Yeah, you're a great example. Um, let's see. Oh, let's see what Karen has to say. So Karen just hired a VA 2 months ago, and it's been glorious. Yay! Oh, that's so good. So Karen hired someone she knew and hired them to actually direct your admin and marketing. Interesting. Okay. And oh, great. Yeah. I know. Jadita's story is so inspiring. Yeah. So that is so good to hear, Karen. Now, I mean, what would be better, right? I mean, really, you do what you're good at and what you love doing, and that is really what drives the revenue in the business. And then, gosh, if you can get an outside person that actually has, some knowledge around marketing strategy, then that's ideal. That's
Yeah.
absolutely perfect. And then, obviously you free up your time. Again, the whole idea, guys, is that you're able to focus on revenue generating activities. And
Mhm.
really, I would just say in closing, as we begin to wrap up, many of us come to the table thinking, we should do everything. Like
Mhm.
who am I to think, I should hire out or I can hire out? And that's actually like I've actually heard people express that mindset before. Like,
Mhm.
who am I to be able to do this? I'm too small. It's just me. But the thing is that just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? And
Mhm.
that's really, really true. Um, so this is definitely a topic that, oh, I love it. Oh, okay. Actually, we got a couple more. Yeah, Karen says, don't play small. I love
That's
that,
right.
Karen. That is so
Yeah,
true.
that's right.
Don't play small. I
Mhm.
could not possibly have summarized it better myself.
Mhm.
And then we just got a comment. Um, and this is okay. I'm having trouble finding a good VA. Any tips?
Mm. So I would say first know exactly what you need that VA to do. Again, in my experience, I needed the basics to start off with. And again, I am a firm believer that you can teach and you can train your VA what you need them to do.
Yeah.
Now, of course, if there are bigger projects, website marketing, if you're looking for a certain skill set, that's a whole nother can of worms. And just as was discussed earlier, the different Facebook groups where VAs may congregate, depending on your practice. There are many dietitian, or we'll say students or interns that are looking for work and experience. So you could go that route, but
Yeah.
definitely just you can train your VA on what you need them to do. So you don't have to necessarily be picky when it comes to the skill set, depending on what it is.
Yeah. So, and I would just say start exploring options within your own circle.
Right.
I personally, I have for the most part, I guess maybe with one exception, I've always gotten a recommendation or referral, and that really seemed to work out well for me personally. Um, so I would start by, asking around, and that's really what Jadeda did too, right? She
Mhm.
just did a
Yep.
post in her personal Facebook on her page, right?
That's
And,
correct.
and that, she got 3 responses.
Hmm.
I also know like several of my clients have posted within kind of industry specific Facebook groups, right? As an example, um, I have a group, I guess I own a group called the Integrative Functional Dietitian Nutritionist. And this is a group for licensed practitioners, and I've actually had, a couple of my clients do a post in that group saying, "Hey, does anybody know of a good VA?" Right? And and so that's another really good route to go. Whatever your industry is, right? You can post within those groups and maybe get a referral that way.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would just start asking around, and I think you'll probably be pleasantly surprised.
Hmm.
So
I agree.
awesome. All right, guys. Well, first of all, Jadina, thank you so much for
Thank
spending
you.
time with us today. It was so much fun. And
Yes, thank you for having me, Leslie.
oh, my pleasure. Truly. It's always such a treat to get to spend time with you. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So, uh, thanks. I'm in your group. Awesome. Feel free to post. Feel free. Yeah.
Yes.
Do a post in there and see if anyone's got a recommendation. I think that's a great place to start. Okay, so Jadida, thank you. Thank all of you for joining us today. I hope you found this inspiring and motivating. And most of all, I hope that it really kind of got you excited about the possibilities, right? Freeing yourself from some of these tasks that you just shouldn't be doing, quite frankly, right? They're
Mhm.
super easy to hand over to someone else. I promise you, your life will change, right? Because some of these behind the scenes tasks are just like soul sucking after a while, and it does lead to burnout. It really, really does. So, and I know most of you got into private practice, like Jadida said, for that sense of freedom. So, so I just don't want you to be so bogged down with all these, tasks that you could really delegate to somebody else. All right, guys. All right. Thank you again, Jadida. So
Absolutely.
appreciate your time. Thanks to everyone who joined us today, as well as those of you that joined are going to listen to the replay. Oh, and before we forget, Jadida, where can people learn more about you?
Well, if you would like to go to my website,
Yeah. What's your
um,
website?
my website is www.getnutritionforkidneys.com, and kidneys is plural.
Is it FOR or the numeral 4?
I apologize. It's the number 4.
Okay.
So
Okay, cool.
get nutrition, the number 4,
Okay.
kidneys.com.
Gut
Yes.
nutrition for kidneys.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Awesome. All right. I think everyone hopefully got that. Let's see. Kidneys.com. Did I spell that right? I'm going to post it here. Let's see.
Okay.
Nutrition for kidneys.com.
That is right. You got it.
Awesome. All right, guys. So if you want to learn more about Jadeda and her business, please give her a visit. And all right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. And I'll look forward to seeing you again next week. Same time, same place. All right. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye, Jadeda.